Thank you, Madam Speaker. I realize we've heard many stories in this chamber today of how our first responders perform every day. And I have a few very short stories of my own. I could stand here all day and tell stories, horrific stories. But I think some of the hardest stories to hear are of our children. This was a window of 1 week in my husband's patrol days and then detective days. But the stories I'm going to relay right now were within 1 week when he was a rookie. He was a patrolman. And these stand out in my mind because at the time our children were the same age of all these kids that he responded to. It was a hot summer day. He got a call. He was at home on lunch. He was the closest to the call, so of course he responded. It was to a child who had walked out from behind an ice cream truck and got hit by a car. Enfield was a little unique because for the last 25 years, our police ran our ambulance. So not only were they the police in a small town, but they also ran the ambulance. They physically ran the ambulances. So he responded with the ambulance to the little girl laying in the street. She was 8 years old. He didn't have time to grab his protective mask. He got to her as quick as he could and started CPR. He couldn't save that little girl. As he blew into her mouth, brain matter came out of her ears. That was one of the many calls that week. The second call he went to a few days later, he ran into a house. There was a call. A mother went to pick up her child from the daycare. The daycare provider had given the child to the father, who wasn't supposed to have her. He went home and stabbed the 2-year-old to death in her crib. My husband was the first in the door to find the baby in her crib, and then found the husband hung in the basement. It was 2 days after the 8-year-old was hit by the ice cream truck. Later that week, a good friend of ours owned a farm whose daughter was a great horseback rider, rode all the time. She was 12 years old. We got the call that the horse had reared and crushed her. That was my husband's call again. 3 children in 1 week. That was 1 week. He's been doing the job for 33 years. I can't tell you how many dead children, dead people in car accidents, chases where he's pulled people out of the cars. I've lost count. I've lost count. But what I will tell you, he's about the strongest person I know. He's the kindest person I know. He goes on and sucks it up, like so many of our people have said today. He doesn't drink. He's an avid CrossFitter, so I think that's where all that energy goes. But we have to do this for our first responders. I'm very disappointed, like everybody in this chamber is, I think, that our EMS wasn't included in this bill. I think that's a project that none of us will forget because they do see everything our police and fire see. So we do need to see them in this bill. We do need to address that first thing next session. I don't think any of us will forget. But what I am grateful for is that We are treating our first responders. We are acknowledging that they need this help. They need this help that we're giving them today in this bill. So I want to thank all the proponents that have worked on this over the last 5 years. It's a shame that it takes a catastrophic event, that it takes that long to address something that's been going on forever. But I'm grateful that we're doing it now. And I just hope we can add our EMTs to this and other first responders next session. So I stand in support, Madam Speaker, and thank you for allowing me to comment.